The millionaire CEO of Panera Bread is going to bed hungry, worried about how much food he has left and if he'll be able to eat tomorrow. It sounds silly, right? Well, it's his personal food stamp challenge. Shaich is living on only $4.50 a day and documenting it all on his LinkedIn blog. He's inspired by disturbing numbers, like the report this week showing 46.5 million Americans are in poverty. That's 15% of our population. And about 48 million people are currently using food stamps to survive. That fact doesn't sit well with Shaich. I spoke to him about his experiment this morning. So you're reaching the end of the challenge today. Today is day 6. So what have you learned so far?
Well, you know, it's actually interesting. It's been an opportunity for me to both experience what I have never experienced, but maybe more importantly to bring awareness to the range of issues that people who are really food insecure are suffering. You know, many people have written me, many people have spoken to me. I think the part that amazes me is that what I'm attempting to simulate in just 7 days, 1 in 6 Americans are actually experiencing, 1 in 4 children. And we're talking about 48 million Americans that at points during the last year didn't know where their next meal was coming from.
And your blog is really interesting. I've read it. On day 4, for example, you wrote on your blog describing how you felt. You said, "I can't stop thinking about food. Each night when I go to bed, I'm engulfed by a sick feeling that comes from eating too many carbs. And I felt so much anxiety about the possibility of running out of pasta." So, as you said, this really does change your outlook about what a family goes through when it's forced to live on food stamps.
Yeah, well, the reality, you know, just as this last 6 days I've experienced, is food begins to dominate your life. You know, I mean, to be able to do this, you have to be very planful. When I went to the supermarket on the very first day to buy it, you know, I had to figure out what I was going to buy for the entire week. And certain meals I made had to take me for 2 or 3 days. And I can remember I actually picked out a number of things, put it in my basket, and I went up to the checkout counter. And the reality was, Carol, I had put too many things in my basket. I had to return certain things because the checkout was more than my $25 that I wanted to spend at that point. And each day I've been trying to figure out, how do I make sure I have enough to the end of the week? I run a restaurant company. We have 1,800 restaurants across America. And the reality is, I couldn't go in my own restaurant. I couldn't go into any restaurant. The reality is that when you're experiencing life this way, you are so disconnected from your food. It takes on such an important part.
Actually, I was going to ask you about that because, like you say, if you're on food stamps, you can't go into your restaurant because what? I think kids' mac and cheese costs what, $4.99. Does this experiment want to make you lower some of the prices on your menu?
Well, actually, what we did do is we created restaurants where we have no set prices. They're called Panera Care Cafes. We have 5 of them up. We'll serve over 1 million people this year in these cafes. And the intention of them is to provide an opportunity to feed people with dignity who have the need. The reality is that anybody who's food insecure is going to be in a place where no restaurant is available to them, whether it be Panera or what have you. And essentially what folks that are experiencing food insecurity have to deal with is whether they're going to have milk that week, whether they're going to have enough food that week. And so to us, a restaurant experience and having somebody else cook for you is quite honestly well beyond what we're talking about here.
I have to get into the politics of this issue, and I'm sure that you're familiar with the politics of this issue. Congress, as you know, is expected to meet this week on a food stamps reform plan pushed by Republicans. It could cut 6 million people from the program. Do you think people have become dependent on food stamps and the government is simply enabling them?
Well, I think we have to ask ourselves a question. And the question we have to ask as a society is, what kind of society we want? I mean, the truth is, we have the facts. 1 in 6 Americans, 48 million Americans are food insecure. Now, are there people in that group that are taking advantage of it in some way? I'm sure there are. On the other hand, are there people that have real need? Absolutely. And the question we each individually have to ask is, what kind